welcome. The purpose of this video is to explain how to pass the strategic level case study. This is the ultimate test of a modern management accountant. In the exam, you have to be a strategist to pass. So let's see how you could be an effective strategist and be successful in the ultimate test of skill in becoming a management accountant. The exam has a case study and it has 4 to 5 questions. The questions are referred to as variants. I repeat, the questions are referred to as variants. So let's see how the entire system works. There is a methodology referred to as the Competency Framework. Competency Framework. The marks are allocated based on this framework. There are mainly 4 areas in the Competency Framework. Let's see what this criteria is all about. First one is technical. This will test the knowledge. Where does the knowledge come from? The knowledge comes from E3, P3 and F3. So technical test the knowledge. Let's see the second element, business. This tests the understanding of business skills. That means a student should be able to apply relevant business skills based on a given question or a scenario or a variant. Let's look at the third one, and that is people. People indicates the human resource situations that originate in a business. So you need to understand the situation of a given case study and the level of people and the issues associated with people. The final element is leadership, which is probably the most important thing in modern business. Leadership will test the ability of the student to understand the level of leadership required to ensure strategic decision making and achieve the objectives of the organization. So what are the 4 criteria? Technical, business, people and leadership. Overall, if you're successful, once you apply these 4 principles, then you need to look at the overall aspect of an organization. You will know a modern organization represents complicated variables. So you cannot fix a problem by looking only at one element. So because of that, all these 4 competencies has to be applied based on a common platform. For that, 9 marks are allocated, and this is referred to as integration. Integration integrates the 4 criteria of the competency framework. Now let's look at in detail how to obtain marks based on each competency framework. Let's look at technical. Technical will emphasize on the 3 syllabuses. That means when you look at a variant, each variant will have an equal weightage of technical, business, people and leadership. So overall, if you look at 100 marks overall as a percentage, you can get marks total and then you finally get up to 100 anyway. So 25 marks of technical, 25 for business, 25 for people and 25 for leadership. Overall 9 for integration. But please do consider that as a bonus. If you get stuck in the exam, if you feel you are running out of ideas, you don't get an idea under pressure, use integration. Use the pre-seen material, look at the objectives, look at the mission, get into integration. So that is how the system works. So technical marks are allocated based on E3, P3 and F3. So let's see how it works. Take a scenario or a given variant. So moment you read the variant, you need to understand, first thing is, what is the knowledge that is associated with this question? What is the knowledge associated with this question? How do you know that? Requires very effective and quick decision making. So you need to be thorough with E3, P3 and F3. So you need to pick very quickly out of that question. This element comes with knowledge, which is very important. So I will take series of examples to show in this video how the holistic approach can be applied. Technical includes all 3 elements of the syllabus, E3, P3 and F3. But if you look at the other 3 criteria in the competency framework, look at business. Where does business associate with? That's right. Business associates with the subject E3, strategic management. That's it. So strategic management directly contribute to the criteria business. What business are you in? Which is very important. Then let's look at the next criteria. People. Where does people come in your syllabus? Correct. Again in what? In E3. You learn about management, stakeholders, change, issues, conflicts. That's E3 for you. So it's very important to understand that. What's the final competency? Good. Leadership. Where does leadership come in? That's all management. Where is management? Again, how you look at a situation, how you adjust to a situation, and how you become successful in a situation. So what does that mean? 4 criteria. If you look at all 4, first one is technical, which includes all 3 subjects, E3, P3 and F3. But what about the remaining 3? What's that? Business, people and leadership. Where do you get the marks? Simple, E3. So E3 is the dominant subject, E3 is the main pillar, and E3 provide the fundamental basis to become successful in the strategic level case study. If you do E3 well, if you are a strategist, if you pass E3 successfully, you pass case study. So I'll use an example to show how E3, P3 and F3 is interconnected and integrated, and how it will be tested in the case study examination. Let's look at a situation. So I'll call this as situation 1. Let's say the first variant has a question about the company acquiring another business. The company buying another business. Let's say the business is in another country. So your case study, the company is going to acquire a business in another country. What's the syllabus area? What is the technical area? Good. Financial strategy, F3. So what is that? Acquisitions, mergers and investment. So then you should click, these are the areas I'm going to look at. What will be the acquisition price? Is it a listed company? If not, we have to determine a suitable acquisition price. If it is listed, no problem. The share price will reflect all the information available. You can pay 20% above the market rate and get 51%, chapter closed. However, if it is not listed, then what should you do? You need to then derive a value. Then you know all the techniques: asset-based valuation, earnings-based valuation, market-based valuations. Then you need to bid for it. Then you need to decide on technical terms. We are still in F3. How to pay for the acquisition. How to pay for the acquisition. Are you paying by cash? Then you have to check the liquidity in the balance sheet. Are you paying by shares? Well, it's an issue. The shareholders of that company should be willing to accept your shares. Highly unlikely unless your shares are doing very well. That's a simple logic. Or a combination, a hybrid method, shares, cash and also bank loan. So now for this variant we got 25 marks. Assume each variant 100, then I will get the average and show you later. So out of 100, each variant will have 25. So let's see. So you got 25 marks now. Why? You identified the technical element based on what subject? Correct. Financial strategy. 25 marks. You know that. You look at the cash flow, you look at the price, you do a little bit of numbers and you develop a report. So that is done. Then the next element is always you must think 25% of the marks we obtained from the variant. Now looking at technical. Looking at technical. What's the next one? Business. What's the subject now? You straight away come to E3. You ask the first question. What business are you in? Meaning, number 1, is this acquisition in line with our mission, objective, critical success factors and strategy? Is it in line with our strategy? You question that. Maybe Johnson and Scholes. Is it suitable? Is it acceptable? Or is it feasible? So you question that. Then, if it is in line with your strategy, we can move forward and understand the impact on the mission, impact on the objective, impact on strategy. If it is not in line, you can question that. Will it affect our reputation? Will it affect our brand? Will it affect our stakeholder relationships? This is how you understand the business based on any given issue. Based on any given issue of technical, it should fit into the business. Remember, technical things like E3, P3, F3 has to fit into the overall business. If there's no business, there's no technical. Right, we got now another 25% of the marks. We got 25% from technical and we got 25% from business. Let's look at the next 25%. What's that? Correct. People. We ask the fundamental questions. Number one, who are the people here influenced? Maybe your internal staff might not like it. They might lose some jobs. Or you need to look at that company. What is that company? Acquiree. Who is acquiree? The company we are going to purchase. So the acquiree staff might not like it. There can be problems. There can be issues. There can be resistance. And all these fundamentals can be tested in this perspective. What are the other areas which could be tested on people? Very simple. When you join two companies together, you know you don't need two CEOs. You need only what? One CEO. So naturally, that CEO will probably has to leave or take a lower level position in your organization. Will that person like it? I doubt. If you run a business for 30 years and if you build from scratch and you become a successful CEO, then suddenly you become a manager again in a large company. Nobody likes it. Not only the CEO. You don't need two finance directors when you combine two companies. You don't need two marketing directors. And there will be a lot of synergy. You don't need two manufacturing plants. So in that perspective, there are issues of people. So you need to address that issue, identify the people, identify the problem, and identify their circumstance. Right, we targeted 25% of the marks now. So we already targeted 75. What's the last 25%? Correct, it comes with leadership. Now, always remember, when there's people, then you need a leader. There's never a leadership concept without people. What do you mean by leadership? Ability to influence the behavior of others. What is leadership? Ability to influence the behavior of others. So now you have to question these things. Number one, definitely there will be problems of acquisition. Definitely there will be problems of acquisition. Who's going to solve them? Can you do it? Very difficult. There may be issues, motivation, conflicts. Are we getting a consultant to do it? So that is leadership. Then, how do you overcome resistance to change? How do you overcome resistance to change? Which is very important. Then you must develop a strategy in the report. These are the issues. Recommend things. Recommend to do this. Recommend to do this. Recommend to increase the salaries. Recommend to have a bridging program if the people are losing jobs. How to motivate them. So that is the fundamental guideline of these four variants. Overall, you can think again. The remaining marks for integration. You are acquiring a company, financial strategy. What is the issue on business? What business are you in? What business are you in? And that is business. Impact on people. What is their circumstance, psychology and motivation? Who's going to manage the problem? And that is leadership. Once you combine all four nicely, you get integration. So that's how you pass this exam. So I took an example of F3. Now I'm going to show you another example from P3. Let's see. The second variant has a question on fraud. The question is on fraud. Okay, what is the syllabus area? P3, risk management. So the scenario you get in the variant says there's a problem. Audit has discovered now there has been a supplier who was registered with the company for the last 3 years, and we have paid a lot of money for the supplier. Actually, there's no supplier as such. It is a false supplier created by some people and entered to the system and benefited from that. What's the syllabus area? P3. So you need to address these issues in the first part. What are we doing now? We are getting marks. In what area? Technical area. So let's see. You ask the fundamental question. Where was the previous audit? What was the audit plan? Is this computerized? Is it OLRT, online real time? My goodness. Was there a risk assessment regarding online payments? Who did that? Who was responsible? What type of internal control are there? Do you have internal control? If you don't have internal control, what was the practice? You question these elements in which area? Technical, which is very important. So that's a technical element. You get how many marks now? 25% of the marks you get from this element. Right. So we move on to the next area to get the remaining 25% of the marks. What's that area? Good. Business. Think. What business are you in? Always you must think. You know the pre-scene, you know the analysis. What business are you in? So how does this P3, the fraudulent supplier and the fraudulent people associated in the company affect our business? Number one, reputation. This news will spread very quickly and the reputation will be severely affected. Your share price can come down. It can affect your future relationships. It can affect your suppliers and it can affect the motivation of people as well. So your business will be affected. It will appear in news. It will appear in the public. Shareholders might not be happy. A lot of things will come. Mandela matrix will come into practice. The stakeholders, very important, who will be influenced, how to manage them and the impact. Now that is business. Then the strategy is how to satisfy them, how to solve the problem which affects your long-term business survival, which is important. How will it affect your objective? How will it affect your mission? And how will it affect your future strategy? So now we looked at the remaining 25% of the marks. How did we look at it? Based on business. Now let's go to the next area. What's that? And that is people. Now will people get affected? Of course, people will get affected. How? Number one, identify who did it, which is very important. You need to have an investigation. Who did this? And what is the job description? And what is the disciplinary procedure? Now you must think. You can't just undertake a disciplinary procedure. You don't know who's connected. And think about your level. If you are a senior manager, if a director is influenced in this fraud, don't just write saying this director should be removed. No, they'll remove you. So how do you think about it then? Simple. Recommend external investigation. Get the external auditors involved. That is how you play the game. But if you're a senior manager, if a junior person has done a fraud, you can directly interfere because it's within your domain. So that is the one you discuss under people. Then you must talk about the motivation. If you don't take action, the remaining staff will be demotivated. And not only that, if you don't take action, fraud and malpractice can be a standard in the company. Now that is dangerous. You cannot get to be a standard in any organization. So you talk about that in this criteria of people. What's the next one? The last criteria, leadership, very important. Now you should recommend how the investigation should be carried out. What is the impact of this fraud? Look at the entire finance problem of 3 years. Sending invoices, paying money, reconciliations, and the falsification of stock. Warehouses are there, stocks are there in the book, but not in actual practice. So what would have they done? They would have clearly ordered, they would show the stock, then they would show it's depreciated, they will show it's obsolete, and they will write off nicely. That's what people do. That's what people do. That is a simple guideline. Remember, world is not black and white. What color is the world? Correct. It's purple. It's purple. You don't know that. So simply you recommend to remove that. You recommend to introduce new software. You recommend periodic investigation. You recommend analyzing suppliers. You recommend ranking suppliers. You recommend a thorough investigation and decision. So you must report that effectively. And what is that? That is leadership. Overall, one thing is left. What is that? Our bonus marks. And that is called integration. So you talk about the overall impact of fraud, how the fraud should be eliminated, and long-term planning. If you develop ethics, if you develop culture, you talk about that. culture. Create a culture of transparency, create a culture of accountability, and create fundamental of ethics in day-to-day decisions. You can always score marks and get the remaining things. Now you will clearly understand how the competency framework is interconnected from TBPL, technical, business, people and leadership. Now I will show you a summary of this report. Let's see how it works. When you develop this report, think always, first question, whenever you get a variant, think, what is the issue? What is the issue? Number one, that is the technical element. Technical element. Which area is tested? E3, P3 or F3. Target that. Moment you look at that situation, you know the technical element, think, how could that technical element influence the business? How could it influence the business? How do you know? You know the case study, you know the pre-scene, you know the mission, you know the objective, you know the strategy, and you know your value system. Will it affect our system? Talk about it. It will. Discuss that. You get marks for business. Then, how will that issue influence whom? The people, the staff. The staff inside the organization, internal or external. Talk about the impact of staff, impact of people, impact of stakeholders. Then you get marks on people. Then the final one, talk about who's going to solve the entire problem. Technical, business, people. Who is that? That's a leader. What's the definition of leadership? Ability to influence the behavior of others. Ability to influence the behavior of others. So then you talk about how to solve it, who should be appointed, who should be removed, and develop a standard and a policy for future decision making. So that is how you become successful in strategic case study. This is a wonderful exam. I know inside out about this. This has been my life all these years as a businessman. This is what we do in business. We integrate everything and you become successful. So remember, to pass this exam, it is very important you understand E3. The strategic management provide the fundamental basis for a business and how a business should be operated. Remember, every issue in any business, whether it's CIMA case study or any case study or any situation, any problem in any business has to be identified based on the framework of strategy, mission, objectives, strategy. So any issue affects your business, and that is why this subject is very important. You do well in E3, you do well in case study, and you get qualified. After all, CIMA is a qualification for business. You enjoy business, you understand business, you practice business, and you become successful in life. Thank you for listening. Good luck for your future exams.